Hey, what's going on there, folks? Welcome back here. It is the Earthmaster on this Tuesday, January 30th, 2024, 11:11 a.m. California time here. Latest activity 3.1 there in Puerto Rico, and also looks like a 1.9 into the Alaska area. Starting off here in Puerto Rico, we have quite the earthquake swarm kicking up here. Just outside the Puerto Rico region, right around the Puerto Rico Trench. Super deep trench out here in the Atlantic area, Atlantic Ocean region. Very dynamic setup here in terms of plate tectonics. Got the Marianas Trough down south here, Puerto Rico Trench up north. Large earthquakes occur here on quite the occasions. We'll check that out here in just a second. But I want to look at the complete day here. I've got to go back the last couple days to include yesterday's event. We've seen about 45 earthquakes or so in this area in the last, it shows the last 7 days, but I mean, I wanted to make sure I get all of yesterday's as well. And it's confined up here to one region, north of the British Virgin Islands area, and, you know, pretty much right on the Puerto Rico Trench area. And we did see some larger quake activity as well, including a 4.6 in that swarming area. And I think we've seen a couple 4s in there in the last couple days or so. There's another 4 in that area as well. So it looks like this may be leading to potentially something bigger out here in terms of larger scale movement. Earthquake swarms around a major subduction zone, major trench area is probably not a good sign in terms of the potential for larger scale activity taking place here. Definitely got to watch it. Historical data, I just pulled up this region here. Just wanted to show you guys a little bit about the history out here. The region that we're seeing right now is roughly around this area, but the entire region here of this trench zone, subduction area, is a hazard area in terms of large-scale movement. Specifically, though, around this area, it looks like we've seen a couple 6s back in, when was that, 2008, 2001, 6.2 back in 1919, 6.9 back in 1787. This area can see some larger activity as well. Back in 1843, a little bit further down, around the St. John's area, I've seen an 8.5. 7.7 up here north of Puerto Rico, 1943. 7.5 back over here, 1690. 7.5, 1867 was the 7.3. This whole area is very capable of producing some large earthquakes. And I just pulled up what the USGS has here historically. And I'm not even 100% certain if they covered all of the quakes that take place out here. But it does sit out there in between a region. Let me blow this up just a little bit so we can see the area. Now, this is just a simple layout around the North Caribbean plate. You got the Puerto Rico area right here, Virgin Islands over here. Earthquake activity occurs in between these two zones here. This is a thrust fault, the Marianas Trough, and a thrust fault up here, the Puerto Rico Trench. Big time player producing megaquake activity. And you know, that can't be good news for this area. It does have the potential, I think, to create some tsunamis as well if we do see something big out here. For the Puerto Rico area, that and the surrounding regions would not be good. Potentially could see that also travel up towards the East Coast if we do see any large tsunami potential. So it's something to watch very closely when we get this swarming activity out here. Back in this article was put out back in 2020, so a couple years ago. They were talking about earthquake swarming there. This is a northern view. This is looking down from the north. Here's the Puerto Rico Trench, Marianas Trough south here. Notice where the earthquake activity is at. That's going to be this region right down here. This is a typical swarming area that we've seen for a couple years. And hold on a second here, turn that off. So yeah, this is very typical to see some swarming down here, but not so much up here in this area around the Puerto Rico Trench. Swarming down here has been consistent for the past few years or so, with really no large main quake from all this activity. It seems like it's just always having swarms out here, and It kind of makes sense here with the trough down south and the trough up north, kind of putting a squeeze on this entire area. But this is a region to watch here. That's definitely pointing towards potentially some larger movement. Now, we did see, was it last year? I think one of these quakes. Yeah, we did see a 6.6 out here last year in July, away from the swarming area and away from the plate boundary here. And that's a little concerning in itself because that means the strain is built up out here across this area of the subduction zone. This one was back in 1939. Just, we got to keep an eye on it. I do have, maybe I don't list it up here right now. I'll have to include it, but I can add the a Puerto Rico trench seismograph station there so we can keep an eye on it. With this swarming going on right now, I did include the earthquake watch there for the Puerto Rico area because of this intense swarming in this area. And it's still going to this hour, as you can see, 3.1 coming in. Don't want to mess around this area because that can produce some large quakes, and it looks like we may be overdue in terms of the larger scale activity. So we'll keep an eye on that. Definitely some interesting activity over here, and that movement seems to have picked up following that deep earthquake over here across the Guatemala area recently. Here a couple days ago, right? 3 days ago, we seen that 6.1, 108 kilometers deep into the Middle America Trench. That tends to put strain out here against the Caribbean plate when we see activity in the deeper regions here of the Middle America Trench. The Caribbean plate, just a little tiny plate being squeezed and bullied from two major plates up north and down south. And then, of course, we got all that activity from the west that's kind of putting a squeeze on this area as well. So we'll watch this. Definitely keep an eye on it. It's looking like it really wants to move here. So just a heads up. The other area, active region right now, the big island of Hawaii. Still seeing some activity out here. Let's zoom in, see what we got. Nothing in the last hour, it looks like, but still about 60 earthquakes or so in the last 24 hours. I do want to check the last 7 days. It's shown about 200 earthquakes here around the Kilauea volcano, but I think there's a lot more than that. They've only been showing probably about 50% of the earthquakes that are coming in here. They probably double or triple that number, and I'll show you guys why. The activity out there across the Kilauea volcano kicked up a couple days ago, and it's been swarming since with a lot of earthquake activity. And this is the last 12 hours here. Now, even up into this, well, let's see when the last earthquake was, maybe about an hour or so ago. But this signal right here, this little drawn out thick reading, looks like magma, including this area as well. Looks like some magma stirring below the surface there. Let me go double check and see what we got here for the latest update from the USGS. Just want to take a peek here. Kilauea daily update. The volcano as of 6:50 a.m. Hawaii time is not erupting. The volcano is currently not erupting. The activity there in the South Caldera region that started back on Saturday is continuing to this hour and has remained steady. So Kilauea Summit remains pressurized. In recent months, unrest has escalated quickly, and an eruption could occur in the future with little warning. I think this earthquake activity that we're seeing is a decent warning of some fissure activity about ready to be happening here soon. Summit observations, the South Caldera seismicity continued through yesterday, becoming somewhat more widespread, but not increasing in event frequency. In general, rates have been fairly steady since Saturday morning. Periods of increased seismicity can be expected to continue during repressurization of the Summit magma reservoir. High inflation, all this earthquake activity, definitely looking like things are going to be kicking up here in the area soon. Let's go back here and check. So, yeah, here's the last 12 hours, right? If we were to go back and look at just the last 12 hours, we have way more than 60 earthquakes here. And they're claiming that there's, go back here to the latest map here. They're claiming that there's only 62 earthquakes in the last 24 hours. So there's a lot more than what's being reported here. I know they're probably not reporting some of these smaller ones, but those are indeed earthquakes. These little spikes here are indeed earthquakes, and it's very important to count those in there as well, because it just shows how intense the earthquake swarming is across the area of the summit region. Getting a little new area here on the southeastern rift zone. This has been following. I noticed when we had some swarms in the past, we've seen this area kick up as well. I think fissure activity is going to open up here soon across the southern area, southwestern zone, far as eruptive fissure activity. That's just my observation. Probably around where the 1974 vents are, or within that vicinity. I don't think we're going to see it across the area of the lava lake area, but you never know. But definitely worth watching here. Tilt meter real quick, see what we got for the tilt. And this is the other thing that's behaving kind of strange, is the tilt meter. Here's the last 30 days of tilt. We've seen this period last couple months here, since about September of last year, when our last eruption happened. We've seen the repressurization event go up and up in a stair-step ladder type of event, with each inflation level getting higher than the one before, except for this last one. Notice how it's leveled off here. We never quite did reach that peak, and now we're going back down. Still elevated, but we're going back down. So I think things are fairly well pressurized underneath the area, and that's key to watching when this volcano is going to kick back up again. And I think it's going to be soon. This earthquake activity isn't going away. It's not dying down. The tilt meter's acting funny. Definitely got to keep an eye on this here. And again, I think it's going to happen right around here, right around this area. Is this current view? It is. Beautiful blue skies out there on the big island of Hawaii. No visible signs of anything, not even a cloud in the sky. But we'll continue to watch that. That was put out today, the 30th. I can't believe it's the 30th already. Goodness. So yeah, we'll watch this. Keep an eye on it. Happening soon, I feel. All right, the rest of the model here, rest of the globe, let's check out the California area, see what we have going on. I thought I heard a flying dog outside. It was kind of a dog barking. Southern California, typical movement out here, nothing major going on, although a handful of earthquakes in a linear fashion up and down the plate boundary, including one right smack dab on the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault. Little scary there, but it's not big earthquake activity and really no swarming, but it is some movement kicking up specifically on that area. It looks like it's working its way up this area with those timestamps. So keep an eye on the southern branch here of the San Andreas Fault. Again, no swarms, but who knows what it's going to take. Will it take a 1.9 to trigger the 300 and something years of built up strain out here? Or will it take maybe just a little super small microquake? All I know is we don't want to see any earthquake activity within this zone, because that could, it could trigger it. Everything's about wound up as tight as it will go out here. I don't know how much longer the plate boundary is going to be able to withstand the strain that's out here against the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault. And, 8.1 is the expected magnitude out here. So nothing to mess around with. Let's see, up north, a little bit of activity across Long Valley supervolcano. It looks like the majority of these are from yesterday. There's just a little bit swarming out here south of the Caldera region, but today looks a little bit quiet. Into the Pacific Northwest, not much going on. One earthquake out here in the Blanco fracture zone from yesterday. Yellowstone National Park, there's some of that earthquake activity that we were chatting about last night. Finally made it up here on the chart. Looks like we did have a couple more earthquakes this morning as well. So let's see what we have for the map here, the chart. Here's some. Let's see, hold on a second here. Here's some of that activity from yesterday. They added on. Here's today's events, a couple smaller earthquakes, and as you can see, there's not a lot of large activity. It looks like the largest one's going to be this 2.5. 0737 UTC time. 0737 would be, I think it'd be this one. Let's see here, 0737. Yeah, it's got to be this one here. This shows about 8:30 or 8:37 or so, but that's something to do with the time difference. So that's a 2-pointer. Not a whole lot going on. There's a handful of smaller quakes. This down here, let's see here. I really wish there was a different station here nearby that was picking this up. It looks as though, see, there's earthquake activity in here, but I don't know if all of this right here at the Pitchstone Plateau is all earthquake activity, or maybe some type of interference. We'll have to watch that, because I still see some of that earthquake activity from this morning in there. But if this is indeed all earthquake activity, this is the epicenter area of where all this earthquake activity is taking place. But again, I'm not really seeing that specifically on any of these close nearby stations, but they're kind of scattered out here, and they're distant from the Pitchstone Plateau station. But we'll continue to watch it. Definitely some earthquake activity occurring there across Yellowstone National Park. And hey, at least they're reporting it. At least they're reporting some of it. Little activity here across the Utah region up against this mountain range north of Cedar City, Utah. As far as the rest of the country goes, fairly quiet. Not seeing, what's kind of odd is we haven't seen any earthquake activity out here in Pecos, Texas. That's a little odd to see nothing going on out there. Normally some of these oil fields are getting hit. They just dropped off completely, or they maybe stopped reporting them. I don't know. A little odd though. South Sandwich Trench down here, way down here, seen a 5.1 early this morning. Prior to that, a little bit of deeper activity into the subduction zone. Both of these are relatively deep here, so keep an eye on it. Looks like the northern end may want to show some activity. We have seen a little bit of movement out here in the last 30 days. More so down south than up north, so it looks like that's trying to fill in slightly. We may see another earthquake or two within this zone. It's almost always showing some activity down there in that subduction zone. It could be a couple weeks or so before we see more, but it's almost always active down there. Alaska area, still seeing some movement across the Aurora Lodge. A couple twos, a lot of this activity from yesterday. Not a whole lot though in the last hour, and generally normal quake activity out here across the Anchorage region. Of course, we did see a 4-pointer come in there outside of Anchorage. It's felt fairly broadly in the area. I heard some folks calling this a nice little jolt of an earthquake. A 4-pointer, not a big one, but still just looks like it was off of this fault system here. It runs north of the Anchorage area, Castle Mountain Fault. Decent sized fault system. Of course, the subduction zone sits here. This region down here did see an 8.1 back in 2021. Is that right? It was that year that we had 3 8-pointers. We had one up here, one down along the Kermadec Trench, and one in the South Sandwich Islands. Pretty interesting year. So far, I mean, we're starting off the year fairly decent with a large amount of earthquake activity, but it's got its periods where it just calms down here. But we'll have to keep an eye on things. Swarming over here in Puerto Rico, Kilauea Volcano. China's been having a lot of earthquake activity up here. There's at 5.7 from yesterday, but if we look back at the last 30 days or so, and this is just the USGS map of 4.0 and above. If they were showing all the magnitudes, it'd be a lot more than that. But they did have a 7-pointer back there on the 22nd, 5.8 following that. And then, of course, lots of 4s and, the occasional upper 5 or so, like we've seen yesterday in this area. So things are still fairly active out there across that region of China. Not a whole lot going on across the Mediterranean, according to the USGS. But the EMSC model here does show typical 2s and 3s out here in this zone. Not a whole lot in the Atlantic Ocean, aside from down south there. But let's see what we got going on for Iceland. I'm guessing it's pretty quiet because we haven't really seen too much in the way of earthquake activity out in the Atlantic. There's a little separate swarm going on here across the area away from Grindavik, but it looks like we got a total tally here of about 34 earthquakes, up a little bit from last night. But Grindavik area down here, handful of small quakes as well. Of course, things are still pressurized underneath this area. The Savartsingi area GPS statement here does show a little bit of leveling off, but overall inflated trend continuing there across the area of the Savartsingi Iceland region. And let's check out the latest update, see if they put one out here. Nope. This is from the 25th here, so about 5 days ago. They just mentioned that the Savartsingi area still seeing that magma accumulation due to the continued inflation activity there. Key to watching that, though, is to see what goes on across the Atlantic. You know, if you're seeing elevated activity out here across these divergent zones north and south of Iceland, then we can expect things to increase up around the Grindavik and potentially other areas out here. Right now, things are very calm, very quiet out there in the Atlantic. New Zealand, not a whole lot showing up down here. In fact, this is our quiet zone for now. Let's see what we got. Yeah, not even on the EMSC model here. Things have gone awfully quiet. Still seeing some clustering going on here south of the Philippines, Indonesia Islands area. But for the most part, the big time plate movement areas that we normally see are awfully quiet, including Tonga area, Fiji. Let me double check the New Zealand area, see what we got. Yesterday, 2.8. 4.8 here yesterday, 232 kilometers. I believe that's yesterday time period. Let's see here real quick. Ooh. Yeah, it looks like they just got their data back here. They were having some intermittent outages of their data, which is not good at all, right? Because could be missing a whole lot. Anyway, we'll continue to watch that and see if they bring it back here and report on anything that makes headlines out there. All right, let's see what else we got here. Space weather movement, space weather activity. Still seeing a little bit of proton event out here from that large flare that kicked off on the far. Well, it's off on the western limb there, but the protons that were shot off from that strong flare are still affecting the Earth, mainly across the southern polar regions. There's that strong, long duration flare. I don't think we're going to see anything in terms of the auroras. Doesn't look like we've seen any changes there to the forecast. Not a whole lot currently happening there across the aurora board, but there could be potentially a little glancing blow that might enhance things as we head probably over the next 24 hours or so. All right, flaring activity or lack thereof once again. Let's see what we got. We got this sunspot up here, northeastern quadrant of the sun, looking fairly active. All other regional sunspots here are, well, they're not even worth mentioning, to be honest. I don't see anything really keen up here, except for this one here. We'll keep an eye on that. That's going to be number not named yet. I guess we'll have to wait for a name, but it looks fairly large, complex. Overall threat, 95% chance C flare, M flare at 40, X flare around 5% chance, and of course proton event still lingering up there in the ionosphere. We'll watch that, see how long that lasts. But basically not seeing any effects here across the Earth aside from some radio blackouts in the regions here noted on that map. All right, Storm Prediction Center. Not a whole lot of severe weather threat. Day 3 does show some thunderstorm activity here. We got a deepening. I want to show you guys this. We're going to have a decent low pressure system here. Not the first storm. The first storm comes in tomorrow. A decent amount of rain. I'm not liking some of that lighter green in the valley. Getting somewhat of a rain shadow effect there. But either way, it's supposed to be wet tomorrow. Now the secondary storm is right there. This one's going to be more of a of a rain and wind maker out here. Look at these pressure lines out here indicating some strong deepening low pressure activity. And this is kind of a almost, I don't know if you want to call it a bomb cyclone, but it is almost at its maximum. It's deepening, it's strengthening right as it hits the California area. So going to be windy and some rain coming in for sure. I want to show you guys the wind potential out here. I'm just going to use a windy map. We'll check this out. This is the first storm out here. Decent. Let's see what it looks like on satellite real quick. Oh yeah, it's taking shape very nicely. Again, that's going to be our storm that hits us tomorrow. There's the center of circulation. Beautiful. So wind with this one coming up here, not going to be, I'm going to zoom this in a little bit here. Not going to be super windy. It's going to create quite a bit of rain out here in the valley like I showed on the map. It's not until we see the second one a little bit down the road here that develops towards the weekend off Southern California area. So about Sunday or so, we got this storm system really kicking in, some winds, some damaging winds here potentially as well as we head into the Sunday time period. Look at these winds just right off the coast, 70 mile per hour winds. These are almost hurricane strength winds here. So it's going to be quite windy. I think here in the valley, look at the valley though, kind of not all that heavy. Down south, yes, it looks like we're going to see some heavier wind, 50, 60 mile per hour wind gusts. But overall, it's going to be a windy and wet day as we head over the next few days or so. That's going to be next weekend, this coming weekend here. The rain accumulation out here is fairly decent as well. This is just the next 3 days. I got to run through the next 10 days to really get the storm that's coming in this weekend as well. And decent amounts out here. This is just the ECMWF model. Outside the Chico area here, maybe 3 inches of rain. Down south in the San Joaquin Valley, about 2. Los Angeles area, these guys are going to get hit pretty nice from that that secondary storm. Now, I'm not for sure if they're going to see 8 inches or not, but this just goes to show you that you're going to get quite a bit of rain. The GFS model out here shows a little bit more aggressive. Let's hope Los Angeles doesn't get 10 inches of rain. That would be not good. But either way, it's going to be a dandy of a storm. And up here in the north, the GFS model showing a little bit more aggressive in terms of rainfall accumulation as well. But hey, look at that. It's got California in mind here, so we're going to see quite a bit of rain as we head starting tomorrow and then through the weekend. Looks kind of looks like a nice couple storms coming up here. Now, I want to bring up the long-term models here and take a look at this and see what we got. There's our low pressure out here off on the west coast. There's going to be a little pattern flip here after these two large storm systems here. Keep an eye on things. Watch as we head into the closer towards the middle of February. I notice that high pressure that's been lurking and lingering up here gets pushed aside, and that's going to be replaced with some colder air, and that will deepen as well. So another little taste of winter coming up here as we head in the middle of February. That is replaced, of course, over here across the west coast with high pressure. I don't think it's going to be a long duration high pressure event. It does show some signs of it maybe lasting for about a week or so and then being replaced by some further low pressure systems there off the coast of California. So February, it's one of our wet months here in California, so I'm hoping we still get some storm systems out there that will keep us above, or at least keep us normal or above average for our rainfall accumulation. All right, folks, I'm going to jump off here. Again, keep an eye on the Puerto Rico Trench. Let me see if I have one that I can key up over there. I may have to add it specifically. a look and see if I can get this one keyed up. San Juan. This is kind of on the southern end. Yeah, this one works. So at least we got a Puerto Rico station here now to kind of monitor some of that activity. I don't think it's going to pick up some of the smaller quakes, but anything big that does pop off will definitely show up there on the Puerto Rico station that I have keyed up there. So we'll keep it like that. And well, I wish I could have all of these on here, but for now we'll keep it like that. All right, I'm out of here, folks. Got quite a bit of schoolwork I got to do and catch up on, and we'll catch you guys back here a little bit later on this evening. Stay safe out there, and of course, be prepared. Have a good one.